All right, good evening, everybody. We're at time, so good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Equity Advisory Board to order. We have quorum. Excellent. All right. So we do have call to order. Citizens communication. No, okay. No citizen communication. Great. We'll continue on to our agenda. And that'll be the approval of the last meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 9th, 2026.
Seconded.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to approve last meeting's minutes. It has been seconded by April Sassani. Do we have a vote? Aye. All right. Motion carried for us to approve last meeting minutes. All right. Moving on to discussion. We have for 4A, discussion regarding historic colored addition subdivision project. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any? I'm sorry.
I'll open the item, and then after we have our presentation, we'll have time for public comment.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
to start, good evening, Equity Board. Tonight, before you, we have an item to discuss a project proposal from a community member or community members. Tonight's speakers are Cliff Stiles and Lady Nicole. This item was an item that was heard by the City Council during their Lunch and Learn last month, and the Council requested that this item come before the Equity Advisory Board. So we're looking to hear your feedback tonight. Cliff Stiles and Lady Nicole will provide the proposal, and then afterwards there'll be time for public comment. And then following your feedback, staff will come back at a following meeting with a plan of action.
Excellent.
Cliff?
This is the microphone, right?
Yep, if you can just leave it down there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to come before you guys this evening. I know you guys got a lot of important work to do. Good evening. My name is Clifton Stiles, and I'm here today on behalf of the African American Corridor Organizing Committee. I'm also the president of the Giving Rose Foundation. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this vision with you. Today's presentation is about honoring a part of Pflugerville's history that has always been there, but has not always been visible. For generations, African American families helped build this city, establishing churches, schools, homes, and community institutions. Much of that history is rooted in the area historically known as the Colored Edition. The African American Corridor Project is a community-led effort to ensure that these stories are preserved, shared, and permanently recognized in the landscape of Pflugerville. This effort is not about rewriting history. It is about telling the full story of our city and making sure future generations understand the contributions, resilience, and legacy of the families who helped shape Pflugerville. Before we walk through the details of this proposal, I want to publicly acknowledge many of our community members here. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope many of you get to speak toward the end. Some of them may have a few words, so I greatly appreciate them speaking later. First, I'd like to invite Lady Nicole, who represents the top ladies of distinction. Lady Nicole will provide a little bit of historical context and share the voice of the families whose stories we're working to preserve. Lady Nicole.
Thank you, Cliff. Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, we're happy to be working with Christine Robinson Jama, who is a descendant of one of the early Black families in Pflugerville. For many families here who lived in the Colored Edition, this area is more than geography. It is where our ancestors lived, worked, worshiped, and raised generations of families. The colored cemetery, which many of you now recognize is historic destination, holds the resting place of many of those early residents. Okay. It represents the living memory of our community. For many years, the stories of these families were shared through only oral history, passed down from grandparents to grandchildren. Projects like the African American Corridor gives us an opportunity to make sure these stories are documented, honored, and accessible to the broader community. Sorry. This project will help ensure the history of Pflugerville includes the voices and experiences of Black families who helped to build it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Nicole. The African American Corridor Project is a community-driven initiative designed to preserve and celebrate the heritage of Pflugerville's early Black residents. The vision to create a public corridor in the area historically known as the Colored Edition includes public art, historical markers, digital storytelling stations, community-curated historical narratives. The corridor will combine physical installations and digital storytelling to create an educational, cultural experience for residents and visitors. This initiative will promote cultural preservation, civic pride, education for future generations, and a deeper understanding of Pflugerville's shared history. The project aligns with broader community goals and heritage preservation and inclusive storytelling. Next, I'll let Native Cole, who will provide additional background and context for why these projects matter.
No. Thank you, Cliff. African American residents played a foundational role in shaping the identity and growth of Pflugerville, building churches, neighborhoods, and communities, institutions, and supported generations of families. However, much of the history is not reflected in the city's public spaces. The African American Corridor is an opportunity to change that. This incentive is a collaboration between descendants of historical families, local residents, artists, and civic leaders. Together, we are working to ensure that the stories of the Black Pflugerville family are recognized, preserved, and shared with the future generations. This is about education, preservation, and building building a city that acknowledges the full scope of its history. With that, I'll turn it back over to Cliff to walk you through the scope of the project and the request of the city.
Thank you. Okay, let me briefly walk through what the corridor would include. The project is designed in phases and includes several core elements. Excuse me. First, the design and planning. This phase includes identifying historical significant sites, developing architectural renderings, and coordinating with the city departments to ensure everything aligns with infrastructural standards. Second is infrastructure and installation. This includes decorative lighting, banners, interpretive markers, and a series of 6 permanent storytelling stations throughout the corridor. These stations will feature a QR code that connects visitors to oral histories, archived photos, and community narratives. Third is public art. We propose commissioning several works by local artists, including sculptures and installations that reflect themes of heritage, resilience, faith, and community. Fourth is technological and digital storytelling. The physical installations will be supported by a digital platform that houses oral histories, short films, and community storytelling content. Finally, the project includes community engagement through listening sessions, workshops, and public events to ensure that residents help shape the final design. The total estimated project cost is approximately $291,500, covering design, infrastructure, art commissions, technology, community engagement, and project coordination. Today, we are respectfully asking the City of Pflugerville for three things. First, that the city formally recognize and endorse the African American Corridor Project as a city community initiative. Second, we're asking that the city provide funding or matching resources to support the design infrastructure phases so that this project can move forward. And third, that the city partner with the organizing committee on permitting, site identification, and long-term maintenance of the corridor. This is a collaborative opportunity for the city and the community to create something lasting, something that reflects the full story of Pflugerville. And I wanted to add that since construction has been starting in that area, there's a wrought iron fence in front of the historic Black cemetery, St. Mary's Pflugerville Cemetery, that has already been damaged to a certain extent. That fence, that iron rod fence, was provided for and paid for by the Rotary Club of Pflugerville. I'm not sure how we can get that rectified, but that would be the entity to contact for the pricing and the damages that have been caused there. Okay.
If I may, just real quickly, we have identified that and it's being addressed by our contractors.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Let's see here. The cemetery holds the resting place of many early Black families here in Pflugerville, and it carries deep historical and cultural significance. We're requesting that the city take immediate steps to repair and restore the fence. Obviously, that's happening. And we would also like the cemetery's commitment not only to this project, but to honoring the community whose history we're trying to work together to preserve. In closing, the African American Corridor Project is about more than monuments or markers. It is about memory, dignity, and truth-telling. It is about ensuring that when people walk through Pflugerville, today or 50 years from now, they understand the full story of the people who helped build this city. We look forward to working in partnership with the city to bring this vision to life. And I thank you for your time today and welcome any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Lady Nicole.
Does the board have any questions, or would you like to move to public comment? You can always bring them back up if you do have questions.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment? If so, please move to the podium, state your name, and you will have 3 minutes.
Oh man, I like this microphone. To the equity committee and to this distinguished group that is here to.
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you talking to us out here or the people over there?
I'm gonna try to talk to, I guess, both sides. Let me see if I talk loud enough. Is that no, ma'am? It probably will be to them, but it may also be to Cliff as well. Is that okay, Miss Lynn? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Truly blessed by the endeavor to move the historic colored edition forward. I do am in support. Is just a couple of things I want to kind of find or kind of get a little bit more clarification on. So as I hear a name, African American Heritage Corridor, would that be changing from the historic colored edition? I don't know who I'm.
That would be a question for the proposal, for the
Okay.
proposer.
Okay. So I just want to make sure with that, because there were some that were in the community that grew up there, they kind of stuck with that name. So I need to kind of make sure we're still having that conversation. When it comes to marking out, which I do love the different pieces for preservation, education, the legacy, the tourism. Has it been laid out on a map to kind of show where pieces will go? I just wasn't sure. I didn't see that. Okay, we're still working on that part. Okay. The other part, when it comes to endorsing, what does it mean that the city endorses? I don't know what that word means. Okay. Talk through funding, got that one. And then loved also the ability for the long-term maintenance or upkeep, being able to work through those pieces. Like I said, I'm a place that the Caldwells, the Russells, the Carruthers, yes, ma'am, all of them to be able to come back and see such a, how do I say, remembrance or investment in a community that for a period of time had not been invested in would mean a lot. I know that there are, like you say, Miss Lily and Mr. Early Dixon. I mean, some others who, like you say, their parents coming up here. And so I just wanted to just kind of, if there's a way of getting clarification on a few pieces, but in the sense of the end part, would love to see it. Would love to see it. And especially to make it a destination of tourism, because I can just see people coming over the hill of Pecan Street, seeing something that historic colored edition, stopping or walking through and can just walk. And then if they want to walk down to the park, they hit the trails, walk through the park. And it's just, I can see a lot through it. So appreciate the placing it out and putting it out here before you all. So hope I'm not rambling too much. It's just had a couple of things that I wanted to kind of throw out first. And hopefully we can work through as we keep going through. All right. Thank y'all guys.
Hello, I'm Sandra Carruthers.
If you could please state your name.
I am. My name is Sandra. I'm on the Carruthers and Russell side. I just want to know that some of the damages that are being done up there while they're working up there, are they going to be fixed when they're done? Because like sometimes I go up there and I look and I see like where the heavy equipment is against the fences, and you know where my sister's spot is the fence is ripped. I don't even know why that's ripped, but just want to make sure that those things are going to be fixed once they're done with everything and replaced.
The right of way through there has been pretty challenging because it's so narrow, and so unfortunately there's been some damage to some of the fencing there. But we have worked with our contractors to have that repaired once that construction is complete.
And also, when you want to go over there to the area, there's wires that are hanging low that should be fixed because that's dangerous. So, okay. Thank you.
Good evening. I didn't have very much to say, but I think that this project is great. Hopefully, the kids, because there's the high school, you got the Park Crescent middle schools and elementary schools, so this is a great project. I think it's going to be more than just people coming to and from. It'll be a lot of children that will benefit from this, so great job. Support it all
Thank
the way.
you. Could you please state your name for the record?
It's LaMonica Jones.
Thank you.
I'm Gwen Terry,
Yes, ma'am.
and looking at founding families, and I'm hoping that while you guys, you out-of-staters, come in and make changes, include the founding families,
Yes, ma'am.
and add the founding families, the Russells, the Dixons, add the founding families, and allow us to participate.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Renee Dixon. I am a descendant of the Tysons and the Caldwells. And we hold that area, the colored edition. Not only is it rooted with family, faith, but legacy as well. So we take that with pride. I am in the process now of trying to build in that area a land that my great-grandfather, James Tyson, purchased back in 1910. He purchased that land with $200, a bale of hay, a brown horse, and some other items. You know, and I hold that land with the utmost honor and love because, again, can't nothing replace what he did. Back in 1910, a black man owning land, it was great. That was history. And so my goal is to preserve that legacy, not only for myself, but for my children and my grandchildren. I've already put it in my will that my grandchildren get that land when I leave. We keep it in the family. So again, I appreciate and I'm looking forward to whatever growth that we can do in that area, but I want to also make sure that we continue to keep the legacy alive in that area as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is April Kearney, and I am a Pflugervillian. I am a native Austinite, but I am a proud business owner in the Pflugerville area and have been for the last 25 years. I have recently purchased a property on First and Wahlberger, which will be launching this coming spring within the next 6 weeks. And we are within walking distance from our black colored edition. And I am so proud that this effort is taking place. We have given a lot to this community. And I want to continue carrying the legacy of those who have gone on before us to be able to encourage others to bring in the quality, the memories, and the heritage to this community. Our heritage is deep, it's rich, it's needed. We poured this foundation. And I think that this would be an amazing collaboration with the city of Pflugerville, as well as the residents within our legacy and our future, to be able to really bridge the gap. We are a cultural community, and we are a community that has diversity, and we just wanted to be seen. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to serving in this project as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Gooden, standing here with my wife, Sarah, my beautiful, lovely wife, Sarah. I'll make sure I include that. So, want to say greetings to the Equity Commission, and of course, greetings to everyone seated in attendance tonight. I'm a native Austinite. We live here in Pflugerville, and I have two things that I really want to focus on. First, the equity of the founding families is, even though I have limited knowledge about that, the importance of that cannot be overstated. So that any endorsement that may occur, or any collaborations that may occur, have to honor that legacy. Secondly, I think it's a great opportunity for Pflugerville to look at this as a beacon of sorts. If you recall from the presentation that Brother Stiles put together so eloquently, there were a couple of representations of similar districts and areas around the country. One of them was Sweet Auburn in Atlanta, Georgia. And the beacon that is for Atlanta and the other represented locations throughout the country can be heralded, and the same here in Pflugerville. And I think it would be not just a great honoring of the legacy and the history that's necessary and should be honored, but as well a great opportunity for Pflugerville to show off who and what we are.
Yes. And I'm Sarah Gooden. I just want to say I'm so happy to be here, to be in the presence of the family and the history in Pflugerville. And it gets me so excited because history is important. And we know how we arrived here, but we are a part of the community. And so that history should also be acknowledged.
Absolutely.
And I'm very excited that we can do this in Pflugerville like we have done all over the country, just to celebrate the community and show that history that may just be in the background, but we can just make it shine and let the community be excited about it and the future that it will give and the pride that it'll give to the community. And that's all. Thank you. And I support the initiative. Just wanted
Absolutely.
to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment?
Okay, if you guys don't know what part I play with the Talk Ladies, as I am the beautification chair, okay? And I want to just touch on how important something like this is for the beauty of the community. We don't want to do, we love to honor the history, want all of that, that is great. But we also want it to be visual. More than just honoring it. I know that people want to, have the markers and stuff like that, but it is important that we have our communities beautiful, cute, lovely, historical landmarks that we can just remember and upkeep. This will change in a few generations, probably to something bigger and better. But it won't change to something bigger and better if we don't start with something small and beautiful. Okay? Thank you.
And I know we had a presentation that was used, but for the community, if you just want to jot this down, PflugervilleBlackHistory.org. PflugervilleBlackHistory.org. We have a website that I'd love for you to look through, share, help us continue to update. Hopefully, as we continue to move through this project and this endeavor, obviously, we can't do anything without the families, period. Nothing happens without the families. So I don't ever think we are even taking a step forward without the families and the community participating, agreeing on whatever measures, whatever this looks like through this process. So I just wanted to make that clear. And again, PflugervilleBlackHistory.org. I know I provided that earlier. And thank you guys. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I wasn't going to say anything, but I will. My name is Ursha Dunbar Crespo, and I represent St. Mary Missionary Baptist Church, and we're very much involved with the update, the construction project to bring that community up to standard. And so I know that they have some concerns about damages. They will fix those. What I want to say is we are bringing that community up to standard after it's been neglected for so many years. And I do want to preserve the history, the original history of that neighborhood, the historic colored addition. We don't want to lose that because this is what these families built. And that's what we want to maintain and keep. So I laud you on what you have done. I fully support all of that. But I'm saying don't change the historic colored addition because that's how we got where we are today. Our church is a part of that. These people are part of that legacy. And whatever the final decision is, that piece, I think, is important. Because when you look back in history, that's what you're going to see. Historic colored edition. You're going to see what it looked like then, what it looks like now, and the wonderful changes that this project will bring to preserve that history and preserve that legacy. Thank you.
Oh, there's one more.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Lily Hodge. I was a Russell. My parents bought this land in the colored, excuse me, in the colored addition because they were not able to buy land anywhere else. They tried downtown. They were not allowed to buy, excuse me, I'm so sorry, to buy land down there. So they formed this addition, and it is called Colored Addition. I was raised in this area. As a young girl, we went to an all-black school. We went to an all-black church because we could not go to the white schools. So my dad and mom worked very hard to purchase land where they could build a good home for their children. And it is called Colored Addition. And I would like for that name to stay. You take away the name, you take away the history. So I suggest that keep the name, Colored Addition.
Okay. I understand that you have some questions. I have some background to the area if you'd like me to provide that, or if you'd like to go ahead and ask the questions that you have. I have information about the background of the area and some context for some of the projects that have been happening so that the equity board knows everything that's been going on there. But if you'd like to ask your questions first, I can hold.
So I have two questions. My first question, and it has me thinking as you were presenting the benefits, but for the community, I would like a more clear, more direct link to some trends that I'm seeing in our state. Those trends, specifically by our education board, if you will, is a heavier focus on Texas history.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to hear, my first question is I would like for you to speak to how does this increase add to elevate the more complete telling of our state's history through a project like this. And then my second question, because I'm not all that familiar, and maybe this will be in Brianna's information, but if you could speak to the Santa Maria Cemetery, and is that part of the colored edition, or is that like a separate, is that considered separate? That would be my part two. But
Okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it makes perfect sense. And let me go ahead and talk about part two of your question first. Our organization has not been in contact with I would call it Historical Hispanic Cemetery. You called it St. Maria. What was the name of it?
I think
Again,
it's
I don't
called
have it in
I
front
think
of me
it's
right
called
now.
Santa Maria
Santa
Cemetery.
Maria. So I would love to be in coordination with them and bring them along with this project because that whole area is about to be transformed and they should be included. That's just my first thought to that. Again, I have not reached out nor have I spoken with anybody in connection with that cemetery, but I would love to and love to be in connection with them and collaborate. To your first point, I don't know how to incorporate Black history, DEI, or any other term you want to talk about into Texas history, especially as it's being taught right now and the reforms that are happening. I'm not here to fight that. I would say that this project and the history that is here in Pflugerville, obviously already noted, is important to this community, and that I would just say it needs to be added to whatever curriculum, educational wise, you would like to decide. That's not for me. I'm not in education. I will say that this project, all of the students that attend school in this area, in the greater Austin area, the history of these families being shared through the specific markers that we talked about, really enhance the knowledge of not only our community residents, but our educators and our schools, and hopefully that can reverberate Texas educational experience. That's the best I could answer. I know the history of families here are important. So that's the best way I can wrap that up. I'm not here to fight education nature as to what's important when it comes to history. I know our history is important, and I know families are important. Go ahead, sir. I hope that answers your question.
Sort of give an addendum to that answer by simply stating this is that's all I want to add to that.
We and Terry again. Since it's documented in numerous places, the Pflugerville Library, it's. I would like to know: is it legally filed with the Historic Commission? As this, as the colored edition.
Yeah, we're getting that designation. Yes. Yeah, it's coming. I've already paid for it.
Okay.
The large marker.
At the Historic Commission.
Yeah.
All right. But I'm saying what I'm saying to the board here, the managers, is that has it already been filed as such? We read it as such. We discuss it, but is it already legally filed with the Historic Commission, the state of Texas, the colored edition of Pflugerville?
Not with the Historic Commission, but it is filed in the state records of this with the subdivision name Historic Colored Edition Subdivision, and that is a filed. The deed for these properties is under that title and has been since the early 1900s.
It will remain there.
The subdivision name will not change without further action by the property owners.
Thank you. My name is Linda Hodge and families. I don't know if this is a silly question or not, but once all the projects are done, I'm just curious where the arch is going to go on both ends. St. Mary's Baptist Church, and then the other road where the warehouse is.
That would be to be determined. There are no plans set in place at this time.
All right, thank you.
Educational. We have children that go to Pflugerville High School, and it would be nice to see that education taught to them in the school.
Okay, thank you for the public comment and for your questions. Just for some background information of this area for those who may not be familiar with the historic colored edition, this area in 1910, and this comes from the Texas State Historical Association. So if there's anything that's incorrect, please we'll work to correct that. But the knowledge is that in 1910, black workers in Travis County who worked in the Pflugerville cotton industry and ice factory were not allowed to move into town. LaRue Norton, a farmer who owned 1,200 acres of land, set off about an acre and sold lots to the workers at $50 in each. In 1910, the settlement was placed in the county records as Pflugerville's Colored Edition. The original settlers of the Colored Edition were Pete McDade, George Caldwell, Will Smith, Ned Tyson, Willie Allen, and their families. The community built St. Mary's Baptist Church in 1910 and had built St. Mary's Missionary Church by 1920. There's a lot more beautiful history in this area, but I'm going to skip several years. The original plat was April 27th of 1910 for this area, and then, as I said, I'm skipping several years. April 9th of 2019, City Council approved a resolution adopting the infrastructure and land use study associated with Pflugerville's historic colored edition subdivision. This study identified improvements for the area, as previously mentioned. And since then, and I'm not going to read every single time council took action, but council has taken action since 2020 and 2022, 2025, to approve whether those were agreements, designs, or contracts to move forward on improvements in the area. That includes, and Emily, please correct me if I misspeak, sidewalks, lighting, and street improvements for that area, including Russell Street, Caldwell's Lane, Taylor Street, and Lincoln Avenue. And so this proposal before you, first, this is just the first step in the process, right? This is a community proposal, but this is the start. And receiving the feedback that we hear tonight is incredibly helpful as we put together the next steps. And so for the advisory board, if you have any further questions or any further feedback. If not, staff will come back at a future meeting with a plan of action for next steps.
Sorry, trying to get this thing to work. Sometimes you got to press hard. No, so I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you to all of y'all who have shown up here and put in the time and the effort to let us know about this proposal. This is what I love to see, and to see it come seeded directly from the community, from our elders, like with the backing, is very strong, because the thing about history is that we have to continue to engage differently with interacting with it. The way that we've been taught about history, often we're realizing as we get older, needs to change. And also being able to fill in gaps and tell like the whole story. That's what history is. Part of that word is story. And those stories are tied to human beings. And so I really want to just thank everybody from putting in this work and this time for this proposal. And just want to continue to learn more about it and figure out how our board can help support.
Similarly, I just wanted to say thank you. I did get a chance to check out the web page before coming to the meeting, and it's very comprehensive, very well done. I was very impressed. And I share the belief that it is Texas history and it's long overdue. And I think if Pflugerville wants to live up to its values of being a diverse and inclusive community, then this is a good way to, put our money where our mouth is. And this is the kind of thing that I want my children and their children to see and have available, because it's one of those things that, I'm a firm believer in. If you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. And there's no better way than to have something very visible that you can walk through, that you can see, that you can feel, that you can touch, that you can learn from, at a time when our state is making major investments in our history. So this is perfectly in line with that, in my view. So thank you again. Thank you for taking the time to put this together, to show up in person and join us, and to speak up for something so important. Thank you.
Just briefly, I would echo everything that my colleagues have shared. Thank you for everyone taking the time out of your evenings to be here. Your presence is really important. I think it's really important that we do center the community voice in these decisions. So I'm happy to support in whatever way that we can. I'm also a native Austinite who happened to end up in Pflugerville, and I've done a lot of reflecting on how those communities have changed, right? And that it's a historical, a regional story, right? So I'm really happy to have an opportunity to learn more about that through this project. And I think also an important part of the way that I see our role here is helping advocate for accountability, so that you see that movement that you might be looking for. So happy to continue just to talk with you.
So just want to ask, are there any other questions or thoughts from the board before we move on to our next agenda topic? Okay. Thank you, everybody. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is discussion regarding the Guiding Principles Framework. Y'all can stay or y'all could slip on out. You don't worry. Thank you. Yeah, I get it. Thank you all. Okay. Yeah, so we have a copy here. I had wanted to So I'd wanted to share, we had talked about recently about guiding principles, which is how we operate as a board should reflect being inclusive and equitable. And so wanted to start the discussion through getting feedback from the board so we can build this together. But the ideal goal is that we should be building a framework within our board in how we work through projects. So basically going through this, do I have that? Sorry, I'm a little lost. It was in the back. Oh, sorry, I didn't turn it over. Yeah. So basically talking about the purpose, the Equity Advisory Board exists to advise City Council and City leadership, operates as an advisory body, but then we go through our guiding principles such as we do no further harm. And this was really a really good example when we're working through the feedback form. I use this framework to help me generate feedback to how we can improve it. And so when we invite any community members to share experiences, we have to recognize that there is a power dynamic that exists, and so anything experiencing potential discrimination, anything like, we must ensure that our processes do not increase that vulnerability for our residents. That everything that we're building, it should be, how can we reduce them being exposed to additional harm? Also, being able to find the line between how much that we are being transparent, because we know that transparency builds trust. So part of that was that example during the feedback form of actually sharing with the residents and the citizens what actually happens after you submit this. Like, they should be able to know what the next steps are going to be. That gives them a sense of confidence, a sense of credibility, to where they're not throwing their vulnerability into a black hole that could potentially cause them more problems. Other parts of it is, accessibility is foundational. Everything that we decide to build or work on as an initiative from this board needs to really consider accessibility. How is that information able to be attained? Do we have it in multiple formats for people to be able to consume? Thinking about things of like, if we have an opportunity to make things bilingual or trilingual, is that a process that we can pursue? And just thinking about that in terms of our communication. The other piece that talked about the power awareness, which I had mentioned, that realizing that we recognize that dynamic. And then it kind of goes on into equity facing tools. Like, what do we do about making sure we understand jurisdiction? Do we have the right to do X, right? Do we actually have the power to do that? We should look at that through a framework scope of, is that true or is that not? And if so, what is the entity that does have that power? And then wrapping up a little bit into things like legal review, things that we're doing that's going to go out to the community and interact with a larger scope of people. If we're asking them to provide information or interacting with us in like a broad scope, we should have a legal review to make sure that, things that we're building or intake mechanism has been blessed by the city attorney, just to cover our bases. And then, of course, things around data governance. How do we deal with the data that we do get from our citizens? How do we treat that data? How do we protect it? And then if they have questions, having that level of transparency of letting them know what's going to happen when they give us that information. So these are not really huge steps, but I think they help us think of things in a systemic way, that I propose that I would really appreciate the board's feedback to go through it, see what makes sense, what we need to add, if there's something we need to tweak, with the hopes that we can vote on it. Stack hands of it is one of our ways of working. So going forward, when there's other programs that we are interacting with, we're using this as a guide. Any thoughts, initial questions? If you want to take time to look through them, feel free.
Do you mind if I share some information with you?
Sure.
So I got excited a little bit because you were talking about defined response pathways and closing the loop, essentially. And we have an amazing staff member on our team, Joe, who it's an internal document. It's for staff to use, and it's to help make sure that should anyone win the lottery and leave the city for some reason, we still know what we're doing. So he's went through the feedback form draft that we had, and he went through the procedures from the last meeting that you approved and created this really wonderful flow chart that answers a lot of the questions that you have. And so internally, who receives the the recommended projects or proposals or the actual form.
Yeah.
That'll go to our city secretary. She'll do an initial review and identify, is this one our jurisdiction? Is it not our jurisdiction? Things like that. And share that then along to the Equity Advisory Board staff liaison, which would be Jennifer. And Jennifer would work with Emily as well to look through that and determine if this is not in the city's jurisdiction for the board to handle, ensuring that that feedback loop is closed, and that if the submitter provided information, that we inform them who it actually goes to, who's responsible for that area. Throughout this process, though, no matter what, it still goes to the Equity Advisory Board chair to ensure that you have it and to make the determination if you want the board to see it, to discuss it, or if you'll just give that to them as an update in your quarterly update. So we do have a process in place all throughout that flowchart process. We ensure that that feedback loop is closed and that whoever submitted the proposal receives some type of information back, whether that is from staff or from the board.
Love it. Yeah.
This looks pretty comprehensive to me. I don't have anything to add. I defer to you, but just based on my review of it, I think it all makes sense. And it definitely is something that we can, to your point, bring it front and center as we do this work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing to add. I think it looks fantastic, and like everything else, if we learn by doing and we need to iterate, then we'll bring back and propose and discuss any additions, modifications, but I think it looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this together. I don't think I am of the mind of we use it, right? See how it goes, like Claudia's saying, and if we have feedback along the way. But I think it's just helpful to have that framework as we approach each of the decisions. So, thanks so much.
Yeah. So, in terms of next steps for this, I would entertain a motion for approval of this framework.
It's a process only, so we can bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. That's fine. Okay. Moving on. Oh, sorry. Are there any other questions or discussions? Okay. Great. All right. And now we're moving on to Agenda 5A. Discuss and consider action regarding the equity feedback form.
I don't often sit up here, so pressing the button is new to me. I'm usually in the audience.
It's new.
I'm like, ooh, okay. Well, welcome. Good evening again. So last meeting, we went through this document. When you last had it, it was all red. I don't think it had any font that was not red. And so what I did is I accepted all of those red lines, and then added into the document red lines based on the feedback that the commission or the board provided. Some of that was one, acknowledging information may be subject to disclosure under the Texas Public Information Act. You wanted a little disclosure in the beginning prior to submitting the form. And then the other was at the very Section 3, I didn't make the change, but you had questions about what is an open record, what is not an open record when it comes to submitting your information. So within this document, anything submitted would be subject to open records with the exception of one's email address. That is considered private information. However, if they provide their phone number, that is public information. So if the advisory board would like to do so, we could strike number 3 on contact information and remove phone number. But if someone was to do an open records request and request all feedback form responses, they would be able to receive those with all of the information. The only thing that would be redacted is that individual's email address. And then the other item was a request for what, after you submit it, what happens if you have questions. We made a little edit to ensure consistency with the name of the advisory board. And then if anyone has any questions, they can reach out and contact the city secretary, and that email will go to the city secretary's office, and they are aware of that as well. So this item is before you for, it's on the agenda for approval, consider action, sorry. But if you have any other edits or changes you'd like us to make, we can do so, and you can approve that edit tonight. You don't have to have it come back to you. And then staff would work through getting it posted on the website and then having printed copies available at the library.
I had a question, if that's okay. I'm hearing what you're saying about the phone number, right? And pulling back a little farther, do we know if there are other places where we are already asking for a resident's phone number in this manner? I'm sure you can understand the heart of my question, right? Is if we remove it here and we protect our residents' information in that sense, I guess I was just wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. Boards and commissions, probably on certain permit applications for if you were doing something to your home, you'd have that kind of information on there.
That's not necessarily something that we're regularly asking, like if they are giving feedback about something in some other way.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
On like other surveys or anything.
Typically our surveys don't request that they provide any identifiable information. It may request demographic type questions, but we typically don't request, in my knowledge of any of our past, most recent surveys, that kind of information.
Gotcha. So my leaning would be to like remove that
Yeah, I'm fine with
line
removing
item
it.
if
I think
anyone
it just
else.
makes things easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, but do you need like a formal motion or anything? Got it.
When you're ready to approve the form, you can approve it with the amendment of removing phone number.
I just wanted to, I'm struggling with that too. Like, it's a balance, right? Like, on the one hand, including it may facilitate, faster correspondence, which is something we want, right? We don't want things to age or folks to feel like they're not getting contacted. But we also don't want to create a potential barrier for them reaching out because there's concern they might be harassed or something like that, right? Which I think is hopefully a stretch that would even happen, but if I had to make the call, I would also recommend striking. If you have an email address, there's a way to get a hold of folks and maybe arrange a call if you want to have, if the person wants to have a call, right? So I'm also in agreement. And do you want me to make the motion? I'll just make the motion while I'm talking.
For clarification, this section in which the phone number would be placed is optional. That entire section is optional.
Yeah.
I'm for full, at a high level, the beginning of this will say that by submitting this form, any information you submit is subject to disclosure under the Public Information Act. And then that section is completely optional. So if you wanted to strike it, you can, but if you leave it there, it's up to the individual to determine whether or not they want to provide their phone number after reading that disclosure that it is subject to open records.
But that disclosure does change something from my perspective because that does give them informed consent.
Yeah.
Would you be open to adding to this disclosure to say this includes any follow-up contact information you may provide so that it is just like extremely clear? Maybe, well, with the exception of the email. I don't know if that helps, but.
I mean, yeah, I don't have an argument against it. I think we want to make it very explicit that this will include your personal identifiable information, like your email and phone number. That just kind of calls it out. That's fine.
It could be as simple as just saying the contents of this form, including your contact information, may be disclosed upon the request as required.
Yeah, there we go.
Can I have a question, a clarifying question? Because I thought what I heard was you could strike the email address, like from the disclosure. Like if someone makes the request and the person is, let's say we took out phone number as a field, but we left everything else in section 3. you wouldn't, even if the person provided you their email address, you could redact that from what's released to the public.
It is required by state law. That is an individual's private information and cannot be provided. So if we get a open records request on another form that we have and someone provided their email, we would strike that email address. It's part of state law.
Okay.
But in terms of the phone number, that is not part of state law, and so we do not have the ability to strike that.
Got it. So what I was envisioning was moving forward with this, with the modification that you all said to the language at the beginning, but striking number 3 as an item for them to provide at all. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I
Or-
mean,
or what are your thoughts, I guess?
I think you're worried about the risk of their phone number being exposed because the email address does not get exposed by law, right?
Right.
I guess the question for that would be, would the language that we provide in the beginning give that individual some concern that, because we're not gonna tell them that the email address is gonna be redacted by law, 'cause we're telling them this
It
could
could
be personal. Yeah. So me, if I was a user coming in and listing it and knowing that, I will put my email address and knowing that my phone number could be public, I would decide whether or not I would enter that or not, because it's going to be public record. So I think we covered the informed consent, and it also could balance your concern of, if the person has a phone number, it might be more accessible for us to reach out to them, but it still puts it in the person's
In their
driver's
control.
seat to make that decision.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does.
As you were talking, I had an additional thought, which is I know we had asked for the option that folks be able to like fill out a physical form, right? And part of my like thinking about that was that might be somebody that didn't like to use email or doesn't use email or for whatever reason, right? And so I'm having this like hesitation about removing the phone number as well entirely. So I think I appreciate that dialogue, because I think we are offering them like the information up front for them to be able to make that decision for what works best for them and the way that they want to communicate.
Yeah, that's what equity is all about, right? Just letting them make that decision, giving them the information, and making the person have agency to choose. So I would like to make a motion to approve this feedback form with our discussed changes.
I second it.
Okay. What's up?
Can we clarify that, please?
Yeah.
Your discussed changes.
Sorry. Yeah, right. To land on adding the additional language, but we're going to keep the phone number. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. We're talking. Right.
So we seconded.
Yeah. And do we need to put this to a vote? Okay. We got two. All right, so second motion, motion passed for us to approve the equity feedback form with the discussed changes of enhancing the Section 3 language and keeping the phone number. All right. Deal. Any other questions on this topic?
Yeah, I would want to hear from staff about like next steps with now that the form is approved, like how will the public know we are asking for this feedback?
I will work with our communications team, to get this on the website so that's accessible, and then we'll have a printed version and provide it to the library as well so that they have that, the physical copy there. In terms of getting the word out, I would first recommend, as council has mentioned before, that this equity advisory board, you are the ones who are speaking with people and talking with them and helping encourage them to reach out and connect. So that would be my first recommendation, is that you spread the word yourselves as well. And then, Emily, anything else? Yeah, I'm gonna end there.
All right. See anything else? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Or gonna just, no, I don't need a motion. I can just say adjourn now. All right. Power to the chair. Okay, so meeting is adjourned. Nice.